All right. Welcome, everyone, and thanks a lot for joining this session. My name is Pavel, and I'm a customer success manager here at Leapsome, and I'm really happy to welcome you all here at our session where we're going to speak with you how we can build a culture of feedback and growth and how Leapsome can support you with that by using two of our core modules, which are reviews and service. While we're waiting for the next 30 seconds before all other guests will join this room, feel free to drop into the chat where you're watching us from, where you're coming from. So I'll be curious from where we're having our guests here. And yeah, to set up the stage, I'm going to present you in the first few minutes the general concept, what Leapsome is, what are we doing, and then I'll take you also through our platform. While I'm presenting that, feel free to drop your questions into the chat, and my colleague Chris, who is also from Leapsome, will be happy to answer all of your questions. So please keep the chat going, and we'll be happy to support you. Perfect. Then let me start sharing my screen with you. And let's begin with you with a quick intro of what are we doing in Leapsome and what actually our tool was designed for. So basically, Leapsome is a people-first HRS platform which was created to fulfill two purposes. At one side, we want to help companies to enable high-performing teams by elevating team and individual performance and empowering your managers. And doing that would be to do that would be really crucial to set up the performance process in your company by running the performance cycles. And that's something we can do with Leapsome, and that's something we're going to deep dive into the second with you. Well, another side of also reaching the goal of enabling high-performing teams is to actually boosting employee morale and engagement. And that's something also Leapsome can help you to achieve by running pulse or engagement service where employees in your company have a chance to be heard, while you as an admin have a chance to analyze those answers and also respond to them to improve certain areas of work. Also, at the same time, we also created our platform with the thought for the HR admins because we understand that your daily work really requires managing so many platforms, so many small tasks. So automating and connecting different HR processes into one tool was one of our key priorities. So basically letting you use our platform in from the moment of employees onboarding up to the process of already launching review cycles or performance assessments. So doing all the people enablement was our goal to let you really have everything in one place and support you with that. And at the same time, we also wanted to create a space and environment where you'd be able to collect all the information in one place and also build your decision based on the data which you collect in our platform. And yeah, as you already know, and as I already mentioned, there are going to be two modules in which we're going to deep dive with you today, which helps us to achieve those goals, which I mentioned in two previous slides, which are reviews and service. So the core principle and purpose of the review module is to help companies to run fair and fair review cycles where people have a chance to be evaluated by their peers, managers, and other stakeholders in the company to receive a fair feedback on the regular basis, which helps them to identify their strengths and at the same time areas for the development. While it also gives managers and admins a deep data overview of areas in the employee performance, which requires additional support, and also identifying who are the stars in the company who requires additional recognition. At the same time, we're also offering survey module, and the survey module is a place where employee's voice can be heard, because that's a place where employee can express themselves on the certain questions which you as an admin sending over to your employee. So that's a place where you can ask all the important questions, while me as an employee can give my opinion about that. And then later on, you can even further engage with the people on the comments they're providing, as well as analyze all the answers they're providing into the system. So I'm going to show you that in a bit more detail. So let me jump into Leapsome account already. And right now I'm in the account of Leslie Leapsome, who is HR admin here. And let's imagine that today is actually already Q4 and Les is preparing for the annual review cycle. And to do that and to ensure that the cycle and is going to be fair, so people are going to be evaluated against the common framework, it's important to establish certain structure and framework in your account. And to do that, Leapsome is like the backbone of Leapsome performance process is a competency framework which you create in order to define what are the skills which are important either for the whole company or for the specific teams. And then as you're defining that, you're deciding what are the expectations you're having with respect to certain skills for certain levels. So it's useful for employees to see where they stand and how do they perform against their current level, while at the same time they also see what they should do to step to the next level with respect to the skills against which they know they will be evaluated later on. It's also, as we understand, quite some work for the HR people to create this competency framework for the company or for the specific teams. That's why our powerful AI function would help you to actually generate this competency framework for your team. So what you have to do is just to choose the department for which you want to generate such a competency framework, decide how many competencies you would like to create for the department and how many levels you have in your company structure. And then basically by selecting that, you can generate pretty much the similar framework to what you see here with the levels, descriptions, and skills, which is already going to be 80% completion before launching your review cycle. As you're doing that, the only thing you have to do is to decide what additional open questions you would like to ask. You have to decide whether the review cycle you'd like to launch is going to follow more like traditional structure of 180, where a manager evaluates their direct report and direct report completes their own self-assessment, or it's going to be like more modern approach where it also includes 360 assessment, where direct reports assessing their managers, and we also request peer-to-peer assessment. So let's imagine that we launch the review cycle, and since Leslie, apart from being a chair admin, also like an employee in the company, they have to also provide their own self-assessment. So as we go here, we see that Leslie has to evaluate themselves against the skills which are relevant for their title. So as you can see here, Leslie already provided some input. What do they think about themselves with respect to the skill, and also evaluating themselves on the certain scale, which is also you're defining for your own company. What is also super helpful in this situation is that on the right side, you can see all the previous feedback which was given to you by your peers, by the managers or other stakeholders, while at the same time you see how your score has been changing over the time. And also at the same time, you see all the expectations per level for the skill. So you can see whether you're consistently meeting expectations for your current level or you're exceeding that if you can see that expectations for the next level are matching how you're performing. So apart from that, you can also use our AI bot over here. So basically, after filling in information when you evaluate yourself towards certain skills, you can use the AI function, which again will allow you either to make the feedback more constructive, to check your grammar, so it can really help you. Or if you want to even elevate your experience while filling their assessment, you can use our review assistant, which is more actually working as your like sparring partner. So the review assistant is going to ask you questions about like certain skills against which you have to be evaluated. And basically, by collecting this feedback from you, it will start filling in all the skills which you saw on the previous page. So that's really like also like AI supported. So if you need help with that, you can get it in our module as well. And also, since Leslie has a direct report who is Elizabeth, one of the tasks would be for Leslie to have this one-on-one or like the discussion round with Elizabeth about their performance. And to do so, Leslie will go to Elizabeth template. And again, our AI chat will generate the summary of the review. So it will take into consideration all the input which was given by Elizabeth, by me, Leslie, as a manager, also by peers if they were participating. And then what we can do is that we'll go through the assessment and see where we are aligned, where areas we are not looking eye to eye, and which areas would require the development. So we can set up the development plan for the next time. And so like in the 6 months, as we're having the new performance review, we can actually, again, like come back to what was the score in the past and see whether my report, Elizabeth, has improved or no. And it's super also like easy with Leapsome to keep all the notes of what you spoke during the assessment, plus set the development goal also in the Leapsome. If, for example, we know that this specific skill has to be improved for my direct report. And as we're done with that, Leslie as a manager or Leslie as a admin can then go to their analytics of the review. And what we can do here is that if we'll filter by the most recent review cycle, which we launch here, we'll see the list of employees who participated there. Yeah, let it load. For some reason, it takes a longer time. But yeah, while it's loading, what's important to know is that our heat map will give you the list of all employees, and over here we'll have a chance to see who is performing like to which level, so we can identify who are the stars and who requires additional support into their scores. Right, since it's like required quite some time to load, I'll jump to another tab. But yeah, if you need additional demo on that, please let us know after, and we'll send you the more in-depth description of how like the analytics works here. All right. So that was one part, which helps again like you to build the culture of feedback and growth in your company. And the second element, which I also mentioned in the beginning, was about the surveys. So again, like the survey module was designed with the intention to help you to create the engagement survey, the pulse check service, which you can send to your employees to get their feedback on certain topics in the company and to hear like, yeah, like how they feel about certain aspects of work. And to give an example how this works is that, let's say Leslie is preparing for their annual engagement survey. So the first thing which has to be done is to define what are the questions I would like to ask during the upcoming survey round. As I define that, let me show you how it's going to look like um, for the end user. So end users are going to receive the invitation to participate in engagement survey. So what I have to do is to go question by question from what I'm going to be asked, and I have a chance to evaluate how I feel about certain questions, provide my feedback in the comment if I have even something further to say apart from giving a score, and going further. And as we're done with that, and as we submit our as we submit our survey, all the results are going to be saved in Leapsome, and then basically Leslie as an admin, or again, like Leslie, if Leslie was a manager, will have a chance to see the results for the company or for your own team, depending on the visibility rights which are given to you. So in this example, as we can see here, we see that we collected the answers for all the questions we sent out in the survey which we launched. And we can see that the first question about like that I have enough freedom to decide how I work was like the question with a really positive answer. So we can see that the NPS score which we're tracking here was like the maximum. We also see that the average was pretty high. And what is the great thing also about our analytics is that you can compare your results against the benchmarks which we collect from other companies, and you can even like segment this like to compare yourself against companies which are either based in the same country with you, operating in the same industry, or being the same size as your company. At the same time, if I go to the bottom of the page, I can see here those areas which will require additional effort from me and my team, because, for example, the topic of having access to the equipment and tools seems to be pretty bothering for the employees, right? We can see that they're having a negative NPS score. We can see that the average is pretty low. So we can already know that this is something what we need to support our team with. And if you want to get even additional context about that, then if you're opening each of the questions, we can see that, for example, for this specific question, the score dropped over the time. So we can see something happen in the company so that employees are feeling differently these days. And then to get even more context about that, we can see what's the distribution of scores between the teams. And at the same time, we can read all the comments. So to get more understanding what bothering people with respect to this area. So going to the next tab, which is the heat map, which also really supports admins to identify the areas where they need to support their company. So it follows pretty much similar logic as a list tab, where we see all different questions listed on the left side, while at the columns, we can see, for example, teams, which has the lowest scores for the certain question. So in this way, it's really graphical and easy to spot in which areas your team would need, which teams are feeling overlooked in a certain area. So for you as for the admin, it's easy to start acting and start fixing the score from the specific teams which are feeling like more down than other teams. Finally, as you saw when I presented to you the way people working and people feeling with the surveys, apart from evaluating survey on the 10-point scale, on the 5-point scale, whatever you prefer, you can also provide comments, right, when you're answering to the surveys. And that's a great source of information for the admins, because that's actually when you see like specific examples where people are feeling in this way. So first of all, our AI chat will help you to generate the summary of the survey rounds round to round, so you can see how things have been changing over the time, as you can see here. And additionally, below you're going to see the list of all the comments which people provided in the survey rounds. And for example, if you see some comment and the feedback which was given there is very valuable, and you want to get even more information from there, you can start the anonymous conversation with the person who provided that feedback. So you can either do it by yourself, you can assign it to your colleague, and what you can start doing is to provide the reply, and then the person on the other end who gave this feedback can answer you back, so you can start this conversation with employees. So this will create this loop where people are feeling heard and they know their feedback is taken seriously. Well, you as an admin can even get more in-depth feedback, right, about some areas which you would like to improve, and hearing from people actually who submitted that with the best source to really start acting and get a better understanding of things there. Finally, on the basis of the comments, on the basis of the scores which we collected in the previous tabs, the final tab of survey module actually offers you actions plan. So what's a great thing about the actions plans is that we recommend you certain steps you can take in order to improve certain areas and scores in the questions we had lower score. So this is going to be AI generated. So basically, as you can see here, there are a few action plans which are suggested for you. So what you have to do is to pick it, add this action plan, and then let's say over the next 3 months, you or your colleagues can actually be working on those actions plans. You can assign it to certain stakeholders. So it can be like an ongoing task for your team to be working on that. And then as you finalize with that and you're launching, let's say, the next survey round in the next quarter, you can see whether your initiative brought a result, because then you can see how the score changed over the time. That summarizes here how we can use surveys for the big projects as engagement survey. In the last few minutes, I just want to also highlight that Leapsome also helps you to really automate and save your time on a specific either manual tasks where you're doing with reviews or surveys. So for example, when it's coming for the reviews, you can create different automations in here. So for example, you can create different probation cycles, right? So instead of launching them manually, the platform will know that, for example, 90 days or 180 days after employee joined the company, they have to be invited into the review cycle with their manager. So the platform will do this automatically for you. So you don't have to do anything apart from tracking the results which you're going to collect as the person is going to be involved in there. The same works for the surveys. With the surveys, you can similar way invite people for the onboarding or offboarding surveys, depending on their start date or their end date, which is also a great source to get the feedback from people either in their first few months in the company or before they're leaving company. All right, I think that pretty much summarizes how surveys and reviews can help you, and how they can help to build you the culture in the company, which really makes people feel heard, which energizes and motivates people to work, because they know that at the end of the day they're going to be evaluated against the fair framework. And yeah, I'll stop sharing my screen. Let me see if there are any kind of questions in the chat. So there are no questions in the chat, but yeah, feel free to send them along our way. Also, if you are interested in getting more in-depth presentation, right? And to understand how this modules works in more detail, please write down in the chat or request a demo through our official website, and we'll be happy to give you a proper session where we're going to take you through all these modules in more detail. And also after my session, there are 2 more sessions held by my colleagues. Sophie is going to present you Leapsome HRS, where you can see how Leapsome also supports HR admins in their day-to-day tasks, for example, workflows, approvals, payrolls, and stuff. While my colleague Nee is also going to present you the AI part of Leapsome. So I presented to you this in pretty briefly, but Nee is going to show you how actually you can enable AI in Leapsome, and Nee will show you more smaller things, how your AI can support you on a daily basis, not only in the reviews and service module, but also in the other modules which you have in Leapsome. Thanks a lot for participating. Thanks a lot for joining. And yeah, I'm wishing you a great day ahead.